Karibuni sana. We'll have some welcoming remarks from the Executive Director, Dr. Johannes Atella, that is from Africa Research and Impact Network. Then we'll proceed to have some quick opening remarks by Ms. Lois Ochanda from the IDRC. We'll then have a keynote address on shaping Africa's climate policy future and the role of AI and institutional capacity, which really speaks to the theme of this specific webinar. That will be by Dr. Kenneth Rotich. We'll then progress to the presentation of the findings, and this will be done by my colleague, Dr. Humphrey Agevi, who is at hand and has joined us. We'll then have a high-level panel discussion on unlocking the potential of AI in NDCs. And this discussion will be having Dr. Angela join us. We'll also, from the Center for AI and Digital Policy, we'll also be having Professor Joel from the University of Nigeria, who will be joining us during the panel discussion. We'll also have Lorna Omondi from Google Africa, whose insights will be useful in contributing to the discussions that we'll have. And finally, Dr. Lazarus Chapungu from the University of South Africa. Thereafter, we'll be happy to, just have some brief interactive sessions in groups, 2 groups, where we'll be looking at operationalizing AI-informed climate knowledge and frameworks. And the second group will be looking through building capacities for AI-driven climate action. And then finally, we'll wrap up this webinar session with a plenary discussions where we'll have reflections, questions, answers, comments. We'll also be going through the chat from time to time to see how the interaction has been building up. And this will be led by one of us from ARIN, Dr. Humphrey Agevi, who has again joined us. And then finally, some closing remarks by Professor Daniel Olago from the University of Nairobi. So it's a packed afternoon, and I'll just like to quickly hand over to our Executive Director from the Africa Research and Impact Network, Dr. Johannes Atella, to give us some welcome remarks. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Atella.
Thank you so much, Leah, for a very energetic introduction to this important session. Mine is to first of all say a big thank you to everyone who has taken the time to join this webinar. And just because reflecting on the topic around artificial intelligence is an emerging technology in Africa, and not so much conversation has taken place around it. While there's a lot of work that's already ongoing in the area in terms of trying to build capacity and trying to apply it in different areas, the conversation that brings different stakeholders around what it really means for Africa, how it can be applied, and what sort of enablers could be leveraged to support its adequate application is yet to properly happen in the continent. And therefore, in addition to disseminating the capacity needs assessment report, as the Africa Research and Impact Center network, we are also very passionate that we are using this opportunity to really create a learning space around AI, and perhaps also linking to the issues around coordination around the continent to understand what's happening and how best we can engage in the process. As Leah said, my name is Johannes Atella. I am the Executive Director for ARIN. And briefly about ARIN, we are a network of over 200 researchers and policymakers from across 36 African countries. And we have 2 important mandates in the continent. Number one, we are passionate about evidence. We consolidate evidence using our network from different African contexts. We are looking at evidence on what works, or what does not work. So if you look at artificial intelligence, really, are there evidence or cases where this kind of technology has been applied successfully to be able to support solutions, for instance, climate resilience? So we do that, bringing our fellows together to be able to share or sort of consolidate this information from the different contexts. Number two, we are a very strong convening platform where we bring together different stakeholders to share and learn about what is happening in different contexts, and to be able to profile some of the emerging innovations with regards to research impact, but also with regards to innovative methodologies and technologies. So we create a space where we can share and learn. And this connects to what I've just said, that in addition to disseminating this report, we are really very happy to begin this conversation around AI. The social part of AI, where the people can speak about it, is very critical. So we do a lot of convening. At the moment, we lead a number of strategic works which are relevant to this and other interventions. We are leading the State of Climate Resilience Report or Adaptation Report for Africa, which will be launched in COP30 in Belém. And the role of emerging technologies in driving adaptation in Africa is something that will be discussed quite in depth in that particular report. The report will be launched by the President of Egypt, and there will be other political leaders in that particular launch as well. We are also leading some work on adaptation metrics, and we've been part of the Global Goal on Adaptation conversation. We were representing locally led adaptation metrics within the Belém expert working group that was established to work on indicators that will be presented at COP30 as part of the global goal on adaptation. Again, the role of artificial intelligence in terms of trying to understand the aggregation of these indicators, trying to really produce some equity around them is very important. Having said that, I have noted that there is a wide range of application for artificial intelligence, but we need to continue to understand as a continent, even as we try to pursue our agenda of development, as we want to adopt artificial intelligence technology as part of confronting a number of challenges that we have, it is important for us to ask ourselves, what capacities do we need to be able to adapt these technologies much more effectively and be able to achieve the objectives that we have. And when you look at capacity, it's not just about the skills, it's also about the systems. So sometimes, there's a mismatch between, the skills side of capacity and the systems side of capacity. So these are conversations that are important. You can have people who are well equipped to run or to engage or to pursue artificial intelligence technology and be able to apply them to provide solutions. But then you might lack systems, the computers, the labs, the data sets that are needed for these skills to be applied. So that means, again, capacity is very important to look at from different perspectives. And I think that is why this conversation is important, so that we broaden our view around our approach, the institutional needs, the capacity, the skills that we need to really use artificial intelligence to help us confront some of the pressing challenges that we face as a continent. And with those very few remarks, I want to take the opportunity to thank our partners, University of Nairobi, but also thank the International Development Research Center, IDRC, the Canadian government, for standing to support these innovative initiatives and allowing space that the conversation can take place to help us get better options to move the discussion forward. Thank you very much, Leah, and I give it back to you.
Thanks, Doc. At this juncture, we move swiftly to have some opening remarks again from IDRC. I see Ms. Lois Ochanda has joined us. Kindly confirm that you can hear us, Ms. Ochanda. So she comes to us from IDRC, being the current program officer or in charge of artificial intelligence for development in Africa. Her research interests include project design, ethical and responsible artificial intelligence, and we are going to listen to her more on how IDRC is supporting capacity strengthening for AI in the region and in the continent. So over to you, Ms. Ochanda. Welcome.
Thank you, Leah. It's your turn to confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. And first of all, I'm really glad and pleased to be here. And I remember that at the beginning you said we have a packed agenda and we have a very short time. So I'm cognizant of that, and I'll make these really short. So as Leah has mentioned, my name is Lois Ochanda and I work with IDRC. IDRC is part of Canada's foreign affairs and development efforts. And what we do at IDRC is to champion and fund research and innovation within and alongside developing regions to drive global change. So partners in developing countries are very important to the work that we do. And they are the ones who actually drive the change through the research that they lead, like partners like ARIN. So today we are here in talking about artificial intelligence, and a lot of the things that Dr. Taylor mentioned earlier on resonate quite a bit with the work that we're doing under artificial intelligence. So over and above all, I think we always say that artificial intelligence is a tool. And what that means, it's a tool that can be applied in many areas, including, we always list agriculture, education, and the climate resilience that we are talking about now. It means that artificial intelligence adds into the tools that we can use when we want to manage climate resilience. The other thing that Dr. Taylor mentioned was to do with systems, such that we don't treat one thing in isolation. And a lot of the work that we do around artificial intelligence seeks to strengthen that ecosystem. So you don't just pick one thing. In fact, our approach has been capacity, policy, and actual use cases. In fact, I was very surprised that given the interest generally in the world around climate change, when Kenya developed the strategy, I tried to search through to see if artificial intelligence has been referred to in any case, and I realized that climate was not picked as one of the use cases. So it just shows how important the work that ARIN is doing to contribute to that conversation. And why I say it's an important piece of work, it's like this project has chosen to get into the AI and climate ecosystem through capacity strengthening. I think this is very important. What that means is that the conversation could be missing because we still don't have the full understanding of what the impact or what the contribution of AI in terms of climate resilience could be. So this work that ARIN is leading, first of all, is strengthening this understanding. So there's some research around it, like in the case of the needs assessment that has been conducted. I'm looking forward to this conversation because I also want to understand to what extent are we equipped to integrate artificial intelligence in our climate action. So I'm very glad that you started with the needs assessment. So I look forward to hearing what gaps did you identify, what strengths and what initiatives already exist, and given what already exists and the gaps that you have identified, how do we move the integration of climate the integration of AI into climate resilience? I say that because, like I mentioned earlier on, we have artificial intelligence for development program that looks at different sectors where AI can be applied. But we launched some projects, and for sure, some use cases, there was some exploration around use cases, and we still want to continue with that piece of work. So the information that's going to emerge from this piece of work that you have already undertaken could also contribute to part of the initiatives that are being led by other funders and helping policymakers, helping institutions, the whole of that system that we need to strengthen for us to really leverage on AI in climate resilience. So I'm not going to take too much of your time already, but I really look forward to this conversation. And I thank you so much, and back to you, Leah.
Thank you, Ms. Ochanda, for those useful insights. We are also equally excited, and we're looking forward to understand the role of AI in climate resilience, more so for the Global South. At this juncture, I'd like to invite Dr. Kenneth Rotich. Dr. Kenneth Rotich is coming to address us on institutional capacity strengthening and AI. And he comes to us from Invergence Limited. He's a public policy expert with a passion for artificial intelligence and an advisor on various boards. His significant contributions to the development and adoption of Kenya's digital strategy, policies, and legislation have earned him properly so the head of state commendation, highlighting his impact in the country's digital and innovation in technology across Africa. Dr. Rotich, if you're with us, kindly confirm that you can hear us and go ahead. The platform is yours. Dr. Rotich?
Hello and good afternoon.
Good
Am
afternoon.
I audible enough?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm using a static photo because of internet issues, but I hope the message will come across clearly and we'll all be in agreement and share across. Thank you so much again for the invite for us to participate in this webinar. We feel honored a lot enough to be part of this program, to contribute to knowledge sharing, information, and even participate in the greater, push for a more intelligent future, and smart and intelligent climate resilience initiatives. I am not an expert in environmental matters, especially on climate change, but I do have a few engagements, especially from my board position as the director at Pan-African Private Sector Forum, where we engage the corporate world on issues to do with ESG reporting and transparencies around disclosures and everything else. Not to bore you with all that, I wish to go straight to what brought us here today and our contribution. So let me try and put my screen across, and then I'll need you to approve my request to share the screen. Okay. Cool. All right. That's okay. So I'll be discussing in few minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, the role of AI in climate resilience and the institutional capacity. Here, we've been gratefully introduced to the need for us to integrate AI into climate resilience frameworks and processes. And what exactly does it mean to us? So straight here, we're discussing about leveraging artificial intelligence to build climate resilience across Africa, while strengthening institutional frameworks. And when I'm not audible enough, please, someone hit my PM and let me know. On this end, we agree that there's a crisis, and that's not something that we need to dwell around, because we've been discussing climate change right from around 3 to 4 centuries, four decades ago, and we've been discussing adaptation, resilience, and now people are talking about loss and damage and everything. So we are not arguing about where we are as a continent, as a region, as a country with regards to climate crisis. It is there, it is real, and it requires urgent action. There is also another factor that is affecting the transcending crisis on climate change, that is the digital transformation. And we tend to see it as an opportunity for Africa to leverage on to bring solutions into the picture. And here, we should also be able to see the role of institutions in strengthening that driver in bringing solutions. Now, we have the nationally determined actions that every country is required to produce in contributing to climate mitigation around the world. And we understand, you guys in that field, you understand the journey of climate policy evolution over the last, say, around 10 years and beyond. And this opportunity for us to offer our inputs into the NDCs is also a chance that we need to discuss why we need to put AI, why we need to have an input of AI on climate resilience. What exactly would AI do in climate resilience? Here, it will be very important for us to understand that there are some aspects of climate resilience that AI can really be supportive. And the reason why we are pushing for AI in climate resilience is because of the cost effect of mitigation. Over time, we've been told that Africa has been promised how many billions of dollars every year by the developed world to mitigate and adapt to climate crisis. But all along, we have not witnessed so much, validative commitments from those pledges. So, what would AI be doing that will make Africa, stand in the climate crisis and thrive as the next market for the world, and not just the source of climate, source of raw materials. Here, AI will be very significant and very useful when it comes to predictive analytics, where we use AI to run around climate modeling, measurements, and monitoring to bring about precision in foretelling climate and preparing ourselves to mitigate the crisis of climate ahead of us. We'll also be using AI on smart agriculture. You've heard about precision agriculture, where we use drones probably to control pests, probably to deliver farm inputs. We're using drones also to probably gather real-time information about weather in a particular region, and we're also using satellites to gather climate in different geopolitical areas. Precision farming helps farmers to know exactly the weather patterns, to know the soil components, including texture, the pH, and even the timing for planting. It also gives them precision in terms of telling the population of the crops that they have planted in their farms, and be able to even plan prior to cultivation. They can even foretell how much projection in terms of earnings that they will get from that harvest, and that's just one of the capabilities of AI. When it comes to energy optimization, we have seen a lot of efficiency improvements when it comes to the need for the world to adopt to a reduction of carbon emissions into the air. We have seen a lot of improvements done that help even refrigeration technologies to adopt different sources of energy instead of the traditional source. We have disaster response capabilities that AI can also provide, so that we have enough information to prepare for any climate eventualities. We have got carbon monitoring. There's the MRV systems, where we are able to actually calculate the amount of carbon in the air and advise accordingly how those organizations can reverse their carbon input into the climate. And this is also something that has led us to what ESG disclosures is all about. When you have AI in your environment, it is able to collect this information and disclose automatically. But there are some controls that will look down. We look around it right below us. The next emphasis that we see. Sorry, my screen is not responding. The emphasis of AI in resilience that we have seen already at work in Africa is on drought prediction using satellites across Africa. We have a flood risk mapping solution in Nigeria that we have also seen in action. We have also seen South Africa adopting renewable energy forecasting solutions driven by AI. And also here, as we speak here in Kenya, we've also seen people in Baringo County trying to go into precision farming using AI technologies, and there we'll also have some lessons that we can gather that will inform what we need to have in our policies. So what are our strengths and opportunities as Africa and as Kenya? Here we have identified 3 gaps, but that is not conclusive. It is open for all of us to contribute along those lines. We have seen that there is relatively poor AI infrastructure in Africa. And this one was something that was highlighted in the previous Global AI Summit on Africa in Rwanda, where entrepreneurs and scholars and policymakers gathered to discuss the progress of AI adoption in Africa. We identified that there was very poor data infrastructure in Africa, and also there was a very restricted and overregulated environment when it comes to data sharing. We also identified that there's also the issue of skills deficits in institutions, right? We rarely hear institutions offering AI courses. We only hear them offering computer engineering, and they're talking about mostly hardware and software. But when it comes to intelligent solutions that speak to AI, we are yet to see institutions taking up this course as part of their syllabus. Those that have done are simply pushing it maybe marginally as part of skills-based training that they offer as part of the value over and above what they're already giving in the IT courses. There's also the challenge that comes with fragmented policies. And this is where Africa needs to be very honest. We have had a tendency of lifting constitutions from other markets, but when it comes to implementation, it becomes a challenge. The reason is because we lack nationally driven policies. Because without policies, you cannot implement a constitution, you cannot implement a legislation, and if you do, there are so many technicalities along the way. So lack of coherent, clear, and consistent policies guiding various legislations has also be attributed to low uptake and embracing of AI in Africa. And the strengths that we enjoy come from the population that we have. We have got a rising population that is largely youth, and they are adopting technology, and they are very optimistic about the future that they are working into. And we need to capitalize on those strengths to give them AI, train them on how to use them responsibly, guided by a very concise AI philosophy. The opportunity that we're looking at here is where are we going to tap into? We have got regional collaboration, and we say, East Africa is the most integrated, block across Africa. And that could be one of the opportunities we want to leverage on, bringing on board institutions like, the East Africa Community as an organization, bringing together, people like EABC Council, bringing, regional blocks like Africa Union, bringing SADC, bringing, all these free trade organizations, like even the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, into the same platform and discussing how they're going to integrate AI into their frameworks so that they can always, discuss and disclose their ESG contributions into how Africa can be resilient to climate crisis. Once more, we have come to this report that Africa Research International Network is discussing how Africa can integrate AI into NDCs. You know, where is that? What is the direction that they need to talk? One, we need to emphasize the need to have policy alignment across the board. Kenya is leading in Africa in terms of climate policy and regulation. And this is something that we need to encourage other regions also to adopt, so that when we discuss about policy alignment, we're discussing something that is, everybody is fully aware that we need to regulate, not just for tax reasons and maybe nationalizing resources, but also being able to give protocols and access to data sharing that could help other regions also to prepare themselves to face the climate crisis that is always increasing in trends and intensity. We also need to cultivate a culture of gathering real-time feedback, within the policy frameworks. How do we do this? Remember, policies that are not flexible and they are not dynamic will always be outdated with time. We need to cultivate a culture of sharing knowledge and skills and experiences all over time, so that we have real-time feedback about how our policies, how climate resilience anchored on policies is able to contribute not just to mitigating the climate change, but also how does it contribute to our economic outlook. Here we're discussing things to do with sustainability. Corporates need to understand that their policies should be climate ready, so that when we are justly moving to the next transition level, they should be able to be on the same page as the policy dynamism is moving. We discuss also issues of monitoring and the impact. How do we adapt into tracking the achievements that you've made by adopting those policies, by adopting those frameworks, by adopting those protocols? How are we able to monitor the impact? That is what also AI can answer. There is also issue of data-driven baselining, the emissions modeling, infrastructure in place that we've seen even, the IPCC using, are things that we can borrow as Africa to inform our policy framework on how we can integrate this into NDCs. And sorry, this one is jumpy. And coming from integrating them into NDCs, now we move down further downwards, deeper into our policy frameworks, where we discuss now the clear mandates on who does what, when, and how. And this is also part of what AI can contribute into. When you clearly define AI use in climate sectors, it is able to speak the language of human beings in a particular environment. It is able to give prediction. It's able to measure. It's able to give impact and feedback. It's able to give an empowering position that can inform decisions to mitigate climate crisis across the region. We also need to embrace embedded strategy in our policies, so that we don't just talk about planning for climate change, but we don't have anywhere that we are answering on. We also need to discuss the issues of policy alignment that we have also mentioned on sectors like energy, agriculture, urban development, and AI, other AI capabilities. We need also to discuss the issue of enabling data governance and ethical AI. If we don't talk about AI user people use internet nowadays, to portray political leaders in a negative light, and that is also part of something that we need to mitigate. So far, we do not have a regulating body that is giving policies and guidance on how to use AI. Most corporates, institutions, and governments are encouraged to come up with their own, AI philosophy to guide, users on how to responsibly handle AI, how to build AI systems transparent, how to build AI systems that are inclusive, and how to build AI systems that will support, the human dignity and also safer planet. So here we talk about issues of data sharing protocols and access. We also talk about issues affecting the quality and standards that needs to be established. We need to talk about tailoring, ethical guidelines along climate applications that we will be building along the way. We also talk about algorithmic fairness. How are we using AI in climate resilience? Are we using it to advance good, or are we using it to advance evil? That's where we talk about issues of philosophy. Now, there's a need across the board, both public and private sector, to offer support implementation. Oftentimes here in Africa, and let's talk, from position of Kenya. I remember one leader who once said that Kenya does not lack strategies. Those things are well done, but the problem comes when we talk about implementation. Lack of goodwill from both public and private sector when it comes to implementation is the biggest challenge that we need to encourage. There should be proper ministry coordination across the government so that every decision that is discussed has got the components of climate resilience that is powered and embedded on AI strategies. We also need to discuss, how do we encourage research and integration across the board. We have got so many fragmented, institutions that have overlapping responsibilities. You find an institution that is talking about innovation and research, and then you go to the next one, they're talking about the same thing, but they have got other added functions. There has to be a way of government streamlining those institutions to make sure that there's no overlap, and then there's a clear pathway for each and every institution to integrate their research efforts into enabling AI implementation into their functions. There's also the need for us to talk about how do we collaborate across tech platforms. Here we're talking about private sector innovation in Africa. I've come across some really innovative solutions, not just on AI but also even on other fields. But what those entrepreneurs say is Africa does not lack ideas. Africa lacks the goodwill to support those ideas to be implemented and be brought to life. And in one instance, one even confessed that in his 30 years of innovation, he has never received any funding from any African government or even a private institution to bring these ideas to life. So what do? We need to encourage technological collaboration across the board to make sure that when we finally talk about some AI systems that are in place, we do not look at AI with the mindset of religion or some ideology and everything. We look at it as part and parcel of our solution provision processes. We need also to encourage multi-stakeholders, task forces to come to consider the role of AI in their activities. All right, because whenever we are faced with a challenge as a nation, we hear the government has formed a task force to address this matter. Okay, but whenever we receive reports from them, there's very little input on how they are going to embrace technology in bringing those solutions to life. And that's another greater challenge that we need to address. So when AI comes, how do we encourage them to include AI in part of their reports, in part of the activities, in part of the implementation? We need to talk about the need for us to fully embrace AI systems, not as a challenge to our existential fears, but also way of addressing realities that we cannot. So we are talking here about facilitating funding from both public and private sector. We have projected that if we can talk about $100 million and above on climate innovation and everything, we'll be able to speak into implementing, because without funding, you cannot implement anything. Without funding, I think funding is the motivating factor. All of us, we agree that when there's no money, no one wants to do anything. I'm not saying that we should be doing things because we're being motivated by money, but we should always put the price to everything that we bring to the table. AI comes with a cost, and I can assure you that anything that is tech related at first, the costs are always up there on the roof. But over time, the cost of sustaining that technology always goes down because one, resources have already been deployed. Two, the trainings that have gone into it also tend to reduce the cost of maintaining those technologies. So when you talk about AI systems, yes, be ready to spend, but be also ready to enjoy the long-term effects of reduction cost. We need to build our institutional muscles, okay? We need to have what we call AI governance board, for instance. Talk about regional cooperation.
Dr. Rotich, I'll
yes.
just give you
yes.
2 minutes to summarize. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So we need to build institutional capacities to invest in AI and climate education. We also need to encourage establishment of climate policy innovation labs. We need to also encourage the creation of open data and model sharing platforms and foster cross-sector linkages. We also need to strengthen data custodianship. Of course, Kenya, we already have data protection agency in place, but also we also need to be very cautious about over-regulation because that one is also another hindrance to implementation of AI systems in the country. We also need to train our civil servants and local planners on how to integrate AI systems into their operations and into their forecast. We also need to continue calling everyone to action to urge implementation of certification programs, planning tools, simulation models, and build local capacity for adaptation. We need to urge implementation of NDC 3.0 blueprint and formation of a continental AI climate coalition that stresses equity and institutional empowerment. I want to emphasize that we are not moving forward until we are able to talk that Africa's climate future is not just going to be green, but it must also be intelligent. Thank you so much.
All right, and thank you for the insightful presentation, and I'm sure we are learning a lot up until now. I see our time is far much spent, but really useful discussions there. I'll now like to invite Dr. Humphrey Agevi to make a presentation on the capacity need assessment. We've already seen what the potential opportunities for AI are, the challenges that are there, and what we need to do. Dr. Humphrey Agevi comes to us from the Africa Research and Impact Network, and he is going to be giving his reflections based on the project on capacity strengthening. So what are the capacity needs in terms of fostering and integrating AI in Africa? Over to you, Dr. Agevi, and kindly utilize 10 minutes for your presentation. Over to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you very much, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending from where you are joining. Thank you for this opportunity to present some of the preliminary findings from the capacity needs assessment we carried out as part of the larger project that Africa Research and Impact Network is implementing in conjunction with the University of Nairobi and other partners. So,
sorry, are you able to project your presentation? I think yes.
Are you able to see it?
We are not seeing it yet, but
okay,
just project the presentation even as we move along.
Okay, so I'm projecting it just in a minute. Are you able to see it?
Yes, we are. Just put it in slideshow mode.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll be brief, just present some key highlights of these findings, but we shall be able to share a full report so that we can also further engage and see where we can be able to collaborate. But this is part of the major project, as I said, that ARIN is implementing. And I will just pick up from where our keynote speaker has left it. And apparently, like he read what I wanted to present. Africa is faced with a lot of climate challenges. And of course, this is due to, of course, we are faced with high climate risks and we have limited adaptive capacity. But when it comes to policy frameworks, that is the NDCs and NAPs, then you find that they really emphasize the need for addressing climate risks. And that then implies that there is need for us to develop an innovative, scalable, and data-driven solutions that can enable us to address these risks. And here, artificial intelligence then offers immense potential in addressing these challenges. However, when it comes to Africa, just to repeat some of the challenges already mentioned, we have limited or we don't have adequate personnel that can help in developing, deploying, or interpreting the AI models. And this is attributed to that we have limited AI training opportunities, and especially in STEM related subjects. And two, that most of this and then causes, then there is gender disparity, that most of the women are not venturing into these courses. That is already a gap. And when it comes to now the government side, also that are supposed to play a key role when it comes to policy development and also guiding implementation, then you find that most of these people, they struggle to develop what we call inclusive and effective reporting frameworks for climate actions, because some of these then stakeholders or government representatives have not adequately then enhanced their skills with the changing even technology, with the incoming innovations that can help address climate change and also help in the policy implementation. The project, just to read through, the project that we are carrying out is aimed at to enhance the capacity.
I'm sorry, the slides are not moving. So maybe you check. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
We aim to enhance the capacity of early career researchers just to apply AI for climate action. We also want to institutionalize this AI within institutions and also organizations and maybe sectors that are helping in policy implementation. And at the end of it all, we want to also ensure sustainability by developing AI specialists and champions who will continuously engage and collaborate to ensure that this discussion then comes up with an amicable solution to climate change. We are here to disseminate these findings that we carried out under the project. And in addition to that, also, we are trying to raise awareness that AI has the capacity to transform potential of maybe different countries' commitments and NDCs, with the view that African countries are submitting their third generation NDC. So how then can AI be integrated within those policy framework? We also, through the panel discussion and breakout sessions, we shall be able to look at what are some of the strategies we could then use to embed AI for climate resilience, maybe into the higher learning institutions or even the policy framework where we have research that is being undertaken. And also we want to discuss and see how can we foster dialogue among the different stakeholders within the climate change space. When we were doing this study, we used two-pronged assessment where we first did some document reviews, reports where similar engagements have been done in the past, and we were trying to see where are the gaps. And number two, we did a rapid online survey targeting master students, PhD, policymakers, and including ARIN fellows who are distributed in the continent. And when we were doing the rapid survey, we used a questionnaire where we had two sets of questionnaires. One that we aimed to undertake and CNA to evaluate the participants' knowledge, skills, and capacity in AI and climate resilience. And secondly, we also wanted to see how different African higher learning institutions have institutionalized AI within their curriculum and so on. And when we were doing this study, we ensured that we covered the entire part of the continent, that is West Africa, East Africa, South and Northern Africa, including even Central Africa. Some of the key findings that we got, and here because we are looking at not just AI as an independent technology, but then how has AI been embedded in trying to address climate resilience? So we tried to find out, and we discovered that among the participants that we contacted for this study, around like 38% had demonstrated advanced knowledge in climate resilience concepts. A number of them had also moderate knowledge, and you can see that around 10% had basic knowledge, representing early career researchers. And this is now the entry point of this project, so that at one point, then at the end of the presentation, I'll bring in the idea of why then there is need for us to build the capacity of these early career researchers. And to add on that also, we found out that when it comes to artificial intelligence and machine learning programs within the higher learning institutions, we found that around 30% of the respondents then reported that there are programs in artificial intelligence and machine learning, while 70% indicated that their institutions where they are, they do not offer such programs. But among the 30% who reported such programs exist, then we discovered that 25% have integrated then those units within the existing academic programs, while only 6% offer this AI and machine learning as standalone units or programs. And we did this mapping in a number of countries, just also to look at the trainings or the courses that are being offered from diploma level up to PhD level. And we also further, then we were finding out, are these then programs having AI embedded in them, or they're just standalone? So, and we find that most of them had the units embedded in them. Then, but others, a few had then this AI or machine learning standing as standalone courses. But then we also found out that when it comes to participation in AI and related training programs, that we found out that around 70% reported they had taken AI-related courses, and this was through their initiatives, maybe doing some online courses, maybe in different platforms. But then the challenge that was coming up there was they are doing the online courses in the AI area, but they are not hands-on. They are not practically oriented that can help address the issue, but it is just enhancing their knowledge in AI. And 30% indicated that they had participated at least one or AI courses. And some of the courses that they covered included, for example, machine learning, deep learning, computer vision. And these are some of the things or some of the courses or gaps that we also are looking at through this assessment that will feed into the enhancement we shall be doing to the fellows that already we have done an application out there. Even in the curriculum that the different universities, institutions are offering in AI, we found out that that the curricula exist, but there are some elements like deep machine learning and AI techniques then are somehow missing. They are there in the curriculum, but they're not being addressed practically. And then other also courses that can also enhance or support the AI, like statistical methods, like the issues also of data visualization also were also some of the gaps identified in the curriculum. And also when it comes to policy frameworks, we also identified that there is no that linkage that even after the graduates finish their PhD or masters, how do they link with the policy environment? And we found out that the curriculum also doesn't have the aspects of climate policy and governance in the curriculum, or the issues of economics that is very important in even enabling the experts do analysis in climate adaptation and sustainability efforts. And we also found out that the curriculum, yes, lacks what we call effective, practical, hands-on experiences related to climate resilience. And also we found out that, of course, then they said that then that curriculum was not that effective, it was moderate. Even when it comes to now the faculty who are trying to now integrate this knowledge to early career researchers, we found out that around then 78% of the members had received training in AI disciplines. But then these trainings, we find that they are receiving the training courtesy of their own initiative. The institution, most of the institutions are not supporting the capacity building of the faculty, and which is critical because of the changing technology. And we also found out that a number of them then have just foundational knowledge in AI related areas. And of course, then this is crucial because once these faculties are trained, it helps in fostering research within these institutions. It helps in bringing out new innovations, and also it builds the technical skills of these researchers to apply this knowledge in climate resilience and sustainability issues. But then for these institutions to clearly then train, or these institutions to clearly support the faculty in the area of AI training, then there is need for anchoring such within the institution's policy. But we found out that around 44% of the respondents that were coming from these institutions indicated that their institutions do not have a strategy to build the capacity of staff in AI. And around 33% reported or confirmed there is such a strategy, while others reported that then it is under development. And of course, this underscores the need for coming up with a structured and a widespread comprehensive capacity building initiative that can enable enhancement of AI integration and adoption. Critically, infrastructure is also a key player. And we found out that most of these institutions are not offering these AI-related courses because they don't have modern infrastructure. Those that exist, they are older and are not carrying out the required functions. And of course, we found out that then the respondents said the infrastructure is inadequate. And this then implies there is need for investment in AI research infrastructure, and through maybe collaboration with private sector, or looking for even funding, like our keynote speaker has said, both private and public, that can enhance infrastructure in our African institutions. And also, we also found out that, yes, the infrastructure is outdated, and also we have critical gaps in funding in these institutions. And also there is the issue of data, that they have infrastructure, but accessibility of data is an issue. And so that means even if they are offering these courses, then they're not getting the data that can support then adequate then enhancement of these skills among the early career researchers. We also then went ahead and interrogated them to find out then which steps could these institutions take to ensure that they institutionalize AI within the institutions. Majority of the respondents then emphasized that there is need to introduce what you call AI as a cross-disciplinary subject, because that climate change is also cross-cutting, and so there is need for ensuring that these courses also that we are teaching or are being taught at higher learning institutions have this AI also being integrated in them, because climate change also somehow is multi-disciplinary. The need also to recruit and retain top AI researchers and faculty was emphasized, because as much as a number of African researchers are trained in AI, but then there is what you call brain drain. Most of them then are going to seek for then employment in developed countries, leaving some huge gap within our continent. Also, the issue of developing accessible training programs. We found out there are existing initiatives around AI enhancing capacity, like a number of centers of excellence exist, but then you find that there is now lack of adequate funding to support the early career researchers access these centers, and so there is need for collaboration between the existing centers and universities where there are capacities gaps, so that to ensure that then they are able to exploit the resources, the facilities that exist in these centers. And we found out also that the respondents also indicated even that this can also be done online to ensure wider visibility and reachability. Also, the need to ensure that that these institutions establish funding channels that can support research and infrastructure were some of the things that were highlighted that can help institutionalize AI in learning institutions. And some of the gaps, of course, then we found out through the interrogation with these respondents were the limited infrastructure, that it is limited and outdated, and AI and machine learning needs then adequate and modern infrastructure, limited faculty expertise in AI, and that is now our entry point, funding shortages, insufficient research and development culture. Most of these institutions are then zeroing in to teaching than the element of research. And yet these higher learning institutions then need to integrate three functions, that is teaching, research, and community service. Insufficient AI-focused training and capacity building initiatives, including the short courses. Then there is weak industry collaboration, and yet then the industry is where we can get the hands-on practical experience. And then this is also an entry point, because our fellows, we shall ensure that they are subjected to some internship in these industries to have these hands-on experiences. Lack of institutional AI governance, I'm summarizing, and then lack of
2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Lack of multidisciplinary collaboration. Yeah, some of the recommendations, I'll not read all of them because of time, but then strengthening AI infrastructure, expanding faculty expertise, strengthening research and development are among some of the recommendations we gave through this report. And just to indicate that then after the capacity needs assessment dissemination webinar, which we are doing today, and we shall be able to share the full report, that then we are now officially calling for fellows to apply, and this information is found on our different channels, which now we want to see that we help in building the capacity of career researchers through different dimensions. That will be the master students, PhD students, postdoc students, and the policy makers. So I think I will stop there, but we continue engaging even through the chat and also email and other platforms. We shall continue engaging to ensure that we bring out the best among the fellows that we are going to build their capacities. Thank you very much. Back to you, Leah.
Thanks, Doc. And really, this is an insightful discussion that needs a whole day, even 2 days, for us to just go through. So thank you for managing to squeeze in that presentation. At this juncture, I'd like to take us to a panel discussion where we'll be looking at unlocking the potential of AI in the NDCs. I'd like to invite my panelists now who have joined us online, Dr. Angela Ndaka from the Center of AI and Digital Policy. Please just let me know that you're here by putting on your video. Professor Joel Nkwaire from University of Nigeria. We have Lona Omondi from Google Africa and Dr. Lazarus Chapungu from University of South Africa. May I know if Dr. Angela Ndaka has joined us today? Just let me know by acknowledging that you can hear me. Dr. Angela, are you with us?
I'm here, I can hear you.
Yes. Karibu sana daktari, that is to say welcome. Kindly in 5 minutes, reflect on opportunities and risks of AI-driven climate governance, that is including the ethical and capacity considerations. Kindly reflect with us in 5 minutes opportunities and risks of AI-driven climate governance, including ethical and capacity considerations. Over to you, Dr. Angela.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leah, for giving me this opportunity to be able to speak in this forum. I am not going to waste a lot of time to talk about what AI can do for climate because we have heard a lot about it. And I am going to take a rather not AI for, but AI with climate approach towards this particular discussion, because when we talk about AI for climate, we just mean that AI is wholesomely working towards improving climate. But I will first address the issues of risks, because out of the risks that I'm going to talk about is where I can draw the opportunities that I will talk about. Now, I know we have had so much discussion about what AI can do, and it has enormous potential and all that. But our discussions have been missing a lot of information that the public deserves to know. And this is where I come in as a social researcher who has been focusing on AI sustainability, equity, and agri-food systems, understanding how this technology is entering communities, it's entering landscapes, and it's entering our world and our realities. So in relation to climate, I will point out 4 environmental costs that AI will bring, in addition to basically the advantages, which you have had many speakers talk, and I don't want to go to that direction because I know that is very much obvious. It has been spoken about and all that. Now, let's talk about information that public needs to hear. How AI relates with water. In 2020, December, water entered the same level of scarcity with gold and oil. And currently it is traded in the International Stock Exchange at Wall Street. Why? Because AI entered the space and AI is a water guzzler. In 2020, what clean water used to cool 1 model can be used in a large suburb for a whole month in the US. Now, that was 2020. moving forward, we are experiencing increased computing due to generative AI. And currently, to produce a microchip of AI in AI supply chains, it takes 2,200 gallons of ultra pure water. That is about water. Training a large LLM, large language model, GPT-3 level, can consume millions of liters of water per year. And that is a reality that we don't discuss a lot in these particular discussions. Number two, there is increased data computing with the increased use of AI. And especially when we are using generative AI to do a lot of our daily, everyday activities and all that. So that requires lots of electricity and high consumption of electricity, especially in spaces where we are not producing enough renewable energy. It means that we are contributing to high greenhouse gas emission. And now this produces what I'm calling a rebound effect. We have very nice AI benefits that are being brought by AI innovations and solutions that are solving climate change issues and climate change action and all that. But then those AI benefits in climate are being diminished with increased use of generative AI, which is leading to higher greenhouse gas emission. And now look at that, how it plays, that we have solutions that are solving and that are teaching us to mitigate, teaching us to be resilient, to be adaptive and all that, and to reduce greenhouse gas emission. At the same time, the greenhouse gas emission is being returned by the same use of the same tools that we are creating. That's a question and information that the public deserves to know. Third, cobalt, nickel, and other minerals that come particularly from Africa, and I want to talk about Africa in this are slowly gaining what we call an high demand because they power AI and they power tools that are tools and infrastructure that power AI. Now, these ones are slowly qualifying to be blood minerals, and they have joined the list of gold and diamond. And this is negatively impacting the social and environmental sustainability of spaces where these minerals are drawn. Child labor is increasing, rural people exploitation, landscape extraction is happening. And that is a conversation that Africans, we are not talking about. Now, to go down to the last of my point about the risks, we have over 75% of unaccounted e-waste that, according to statistics, ends up in the global south, mostly African countries and the Asian countries. All the e-waste comes from computing, data centers, computers, wires, and everything that we use in high-tech, computer technology, AI, and all these particular spaces. And this one is fueling pollution in Africa, fueling pollution in the global south. And that is something that we're still not talking about, both in practice and in policy. Now, all these issues, what are they doing? They are inducing inequality. They are inducing inequality in terms of power, that is electricity, in terms of clean water, in terms of food, quality food, in terms of clean air. And that means in the near future, if AI is going to be working and moving in the same direction, the consumption is going to continue in the same direction. It means that clean water, good food, affordable power, and clean air will only be available for those who can afford it. And those who can't afford it, then that will be it. Then we also expect in the near future there will be social tensions and class actions, especially conflict between different communities and data centers and all that. And so those are the risks. And what are the opportunities that I would talk to us as Africans, as research communities? We need to build definitely innovation that focuses on climate adaptation and resilience and actions. But then we also need Africa to safeguard landscapes and people and the gains that come from AI by negotiating for value, especially for what we have. We can negotiate with what we have, that is the minerals, as opposed to the empty rhetoric that we are taking about AI for this, AI for this, AI for this. And then there is taking systems approach to policy production. A few policies. We have seen so many strategies about AI, but none of them is addressing comprehensively climate and environmental cost and opportunities. And there is need for policies to squarely addressing Africa's areas of climate vulnerability as relates to AI, and what many nations are talking about, especially now, they're talking about increased innovation, data infrastructure, and skills. Can we talk about how do we address environmental costs that squarely touch on us in Africa? And the last point of opportunities, we need local funding. We are being funded by the big tech. The big tech have interests in what we are doing. So they will never fight against the environmental costs that I'm talking about. They will never fund anything that is focusing on addressing those costs. They will fund whatever works to produce profits for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Angela, for those remarks. I think that's a good way to transition into the lessons from countries and institutions that are already leveraging AI in adaptation and mitigation efforts. And for this, I'd like to invite Professor Joel from the University of Nigeria. Professor Joel, if you are joining us, kindly spend the next 5 minutes in reflecting on some of the lessons that countries and institutions are already leveraging on in terms of AI in adaptation and mitigation efforts. Professor Joel, over to you.
I want to be frank. Good afternoon, all. I want to be frank that 5 minutes should not be enough to tell you the story. So I can't. I don't know how to tell you that story because we have the story, and the last speaker was clear. You could see there were issues around ethical issues that were raised, and so well, I will just mention one scenario. I have been the project manager of artificial intelligence for agriculture and food systems in Africa. Um, I cannot put on my video because the host disabled it, so you can't see me talk. But let's go on. So what I was saying is that when I coordinated this project across 10 countries in Africa, one thing was clear, and that is we have challenges in climate, not just in agriculture, um, not just in agriculture, but in other areas. Even climate change is affecting the health sector and others. So, but what we have learned from two cases we implemented in Kenya, Nigeria, we could see that there should be a principle of inclusion in it. And what is inclusion in this? We should see AI as complementing, not totally disruptive. Because I always mention this that we like in Africa discussing things that are new, but have not fully harnessed other things that have come, technologies that have come before even the new one. And I still maintain, as someone who have been in this field for over 30 years, that even the common IoTs, I use the word common, we have not fully utilized the potentials of IoTs. And then we're also talking about AI. So one of the things we learned is that there must be co-creation, design by inclusion. We also need to understand the context for the use of this technology. And that context will mean understanding the uniqueness of our people. For Africa, for instance, where most people impacted by climate change are domiciled in the rural communities, you see it exacerbates the issue of rural urban migration. So when you also bring AI and you don't consider the unique issues in these rural communities like lack of data infrastructure, you have bias from the data networks that give you much data speed in the urban areas, but in the rural communities you find it hard to have this. So there is need for serious policy reforms, and researchers need to understand, and their capacity should be built in understanding and building responsible or ethical AI, which involves transparency. You also, the last speaker talked about issues around climate. Training large data sets on AI algorithms takes a lot of brings a lot of CO2 emissions. We should know that, and then that means we should be responsible in what type of energy systems we use in training AI. So that was implemented in some of our programs in not University of Nigeria, but I want to highlight more my affiliate organization, that is African Technology Policy Studies Network, where I did a serious project around and coordinated this. So clearly, the point of inclusion. Today, technology is designed across Africa without inclusion principle. The end users are not included. So that we must be ready to sit on a round
Leah, is it me who has a problem, or because I can't hear the speaker now?
I also can't.
think
I was
about.
wondering.
He's just gone off.
Is off.
I think.
Prof, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
So finally, let me just round up. So I was just talking about the inclusion, co-creation of our tools that are viable, that actually, they are actually suited for environment. So you may design systems that do not use networks that may be deployed on small servers or mobile phones. So they may not be diagnosing or giving you early warning around disease infestation across many crops because of the large data sets that will be needed. So you can build offline analytical or disease detection models that can be used on mobile phones. Then you then talk about what is the literacy level. So when you're designing, you need to now think about capacity building, training the farmers, the rural people, maybe even in health centers to be able to use the technology. So while AI is very, very lucrative and may offer very good insight, we must be ethical, we must be intentional about our approach so that the marginalized, especially again women, can be included in the design process. Their thoughts processes, their will I say, okay, their needs should be prioritized so that there will be impact. Otherwise, it will be the same story that a new technology came, we talked about it, we published, and we never utilized it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Prof, for your insights, more so on the aspect of inclusion, even as we look at leveraging AI for climate resilience across Africa and beyond. I'd now like to invite Ms. Lorna Omondi, who is joining us from Google Africa, to give us some few remarks on aligning. How can we align AI innovations with Africa's NDCs, informed by the capacity needs assessment funding? AI for Africa's future, as I can see from the presentation. So please go ahead, Ms. Lorna Omondi. You have 5 minutes. Thanks.
Thank you all. I want to talk about a lot of things that have been said and respond to a lot of things. I am big tech. Those of you who are saying things about big tech, I'm here to respond in person. I can't see my screen or what's being shared, so I'm hoping. Are you able to see Miss Leah and the rest of
Yes,
the team?
we can see your screen. Yes, we can see it. Go ahead.
Love to hear it. So I just want to say, I want to address a couple of
quick things. First, for context, my name is Lorna. I'm the partnerships lead for machine learning and artificial intelligence for all of Africa for Google. A couple of quick responses for some things that have been said from Dr. Ratich to our other professors and colleagues, Angela and our colleague from Nigeria. Thank you so much. Most companies care about profits, but I'm lucky enough to work for a company that advocates for having a small footprint as possible. I will post some links in the chat after, but I've had a couple of jobs in Google. I first worked in the renewable energy team. We have a commitment to 100% renewable energy. And I'm not talking credits and trees in the Congo or somewhere in Kenya. We actually replace megawatt hour for megawatt hour across the world for every single megawatt hour of energy that we consume. We work with solar farms, wind farms, geothermal. We're getting into nuclear all over the world. And that's the first job I had. And the second job I had, I led capacity planning for data centers. I was the global lead for data center capacity planning for all our data centers, from Japan to Finland, from South Africa to Brazil, everything. Now, in terms of water, what Madame Dacus said was really true. I can't remember its professor, I can't remember the title, but it's a very water-intensive process. But as we got short on land and places where we could build data centers, we moved to air-cooled. So yes, traditional ML training is very water-intensive, but there's ways to do it with air cooling. So I just want to say that there's a lot of concerns and things that we should be having conversations about. But thankfully, for a lot of this, the science is moving to a place where we have options. I've worked in California for the last 10 years. I recently just moved back to Kenya because I believe the promise is here. And now I move around between different African countries, evangelizing our work. In fact, just this week, we had a weather and climate summit, and I'm seeing some of my attendees here. So good to see those of you who were with us on Wednesday. Capacity building in terms of building the technology and then showing people how to use it, showing people how to adapt it, showing people how to build on it if they're researchers is such a powerful thing. And as head of partnerships for all of Africa, I'm trying to organize more and more of these sessions where we bring startups, research institutions, researchers, universities into the room so we can talk about what we have and build together. We have a number of very interesting models. We have papers on that I can post links on in our chat right after this. We have short-term models, medium-term models, seasonal models, extreme weather events, and even wildfire detection, because with increasing dry conditions, we are getting increasing number of wildfires. For those of you who are in Kenya, you may remember the Isiolo wildfire from earlier this year, Q1, that burnt an area larger than all of Nairobi, which was kind of chaotic, and we don't want this. So I'll just quickly go through some of the things that we have in the ecosystem. I'm very proud of this nowcasting model. It's a 12 to 24 hour focused, 15-minute resolution, 5x5 kilometer resolution. And why I'm really proud of this is it addresses some of the things I heard in the room. Are Africans building solutions that are relevant to us? And I'd like to say yes. Yes. Did you all know that we have 2 research hubs in Africa that are rapidly expanding? One in Accra right now, one in Nairobi, with scientists from all over Africa, PhDs, either in computer science or in another science that intersects with computer science, building AI models that are localized to our context. And even those that are there partner, like I work to create partnerships with universities, research institutions like the CGIARs, and it's so good to be in a room like this because we're constantly collaborating. Now, the nowcasting model that is available on all your phones in all the countries where it's legal for us to release the focused was built by our weather team right out of Accra. So it's really powerful to see African researchers jumping into the problems and building solutions for a time such as this with our context. And because we are also African, the people who are being hired are African, we care about the same things that were being mentioned earlier before. We're not just, yes, we care about our company and our company's profits, but because we also care about our homes, we are creating models that are cognizant of the needs of the people on the continent, because we're not trying to destroy the future of our children. In addition to the short-term model, we also have a 10-day and 15-day focused. One is deterministic and one is stochastic. And this is especially useful in monitoring extreme weather movements, cyclones, monsoons, extreme weather events, so that governments can prepare, send resources ahead of time. And again, we are working to build models with artificial intelligence that compete with state-of-the-art models. So in the traditional sense, we needed this massive supercomputers that very few countries had. We don't have that many radar stations. We have 37 in the entire continent, whereas places like Europe or America have hundreds. So artificial intelligence is helping us bridge the gaps that we couldn't otherwise bridge with equipment, and we are outperforming a lot of the state-of-the-art models. Cloud compute is still expensive, and in our workshop earlier this week, a lot of our participants told us that we make these models available, by the way. We make the data available. You can insert your data, you can play around with them, but the compute costs get heavy quickly. So what the professor from Nigeria mentioned a little while ago is something that we are grappling with. How do we make it more accessible in terms of cloud compute so that the people that need the models the most are able to interact with them and come up with good responses? Then we've also developed a riverine model, hydrological and inundation model, to model floods. This is what powers the flood alerts. Again, that's available in a number of African countries. We're working to expand, create new partnerships with at least over 24 countries, 24 more countries, but in places like Kenya and the places you see in my map, we have gauges, data, models that translate into alerts on your phone. And we're just trying to see, how can we make this more accessible? So a lot of us have smartphones now, but the reality is a lot of people in rural Africa will still have not a very smart phone. So how can we send this alerts on text, on your SSD with phone calls so that people know when an extreme weather event is coming their way? Or if you're a farmer, when to plant, when to harvest, when to fertilize, when to pesticide. So there's minimal wastage and optimized yield. We've also published a paper on seasonal focusing. One of the largest questions we got from our researchers, policymakers, startups outfacing was, how do we get longer term focused? We've created a model that can potentially go up to 40 years, but we're currently testing it for a couple of months, couple of years. We've started with the Indian government right now with a couple of universities, and I'm trying to work with my colleagues to see how we can bring this to Africa, because we are a very hydrologically powered ecosystem. A lot of countries rely heavily on hydropower. So energy relies on rain, our agriculture relies on rain, our economy relies on rain. Having a longer insight into what is possible will really help us advance our planning. So we're currently testing out. We've backdated it up to 40 years and it's performing really well. I'll share the paper that we published on this. And now we're trying to see if it works real time going forward, even with climate change, because this is a really powerful climate model. And then this is something we are testing. I'm going to share a link at the end of my presentation. We are potentially going to be looking for partners to test and see whether our soil moisture drought prediction model is working as expected in Africa. It is the sister of this flood focusing model in the reverse. And this is nascent, but again, we're just working to make sure all these things tied to weather, climate, and its adverse effects in this period in history we are getting ahead of. The last one I'll mention here will be wildfire boundary detection using satellites from space. How can we detect them within a span of 20 minutes anywhere in Africa, the size of a classroom? We're trying to get to that resolution every 20 minutes everywhere in Africa, because we're seeing these extreme weather events are becoming quite common. So we're working together with institutions on the ground, startups on the ground, to optimize agricultural decisions, leading to increased yields. We're trying to solve this food security problem. We're trying to enhance early warning systems. We're trying to help governments, corporations, and organizations create more optimal plans. I'm just going to throw in something that is not related directly, but indirectly to weather. We also have remote sensing capabilities, some that can help you sense how much damage has happened after a disaster, say a flood or a wildfire. And this is helping send warnings, send help much faster than ever before. It was first developed for California, where I came from, where there's lots of wildfires, but it's also applicable in Africa. And then we're also working to see how we can extend these insights into, hey Grace, into our agricultural platforms. How can we get to a point where from space, with all the technology, with all the AI insights we're getting from weather, we can get to a place where we can tell from space what's being grown, the acreage, what was going on in the land every single month of the year? How can we help farmers do better for increased prosperity? So I'm going to share this as I close. If you want to stay updated on future ML AI releases being created by Google Research Africa, solutions for Africa by Africans, please, please, please take that QR code. It'll lead to a form. You can share your name, your email, your organization. And as we come up with new releases, you will be the first to know. And it is just such an honor and a privilege to be working on solutions in a way where it's not solutions being made from out there for us. We are right here making them by ourselves, caring about the things our children will care about, and not just a company's bottom line. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate you.
All right.
Now I'm going to go into the chat and send all the links.
Yes, yes, please. And we really appreciate if that information is shared with us on the chat. Thank you, Lorna, for that presentation. I'd now like to move on to our final panelist to wrap up this segment for us, and that is Dr. Lazarus Chapungu, joining us from the University of South Africa. Dr. Lazarus Chapungu, kindly put your video on and give us some reflections on advancing AI for climate resilience through capacity building. Advancing AI for climate resilience through capacity building. Dr. Lazarus, welcome. Over to you. Kindly spend the next 5 minutes on these things.
Thank you very much, Leah, for this opportunity. Most of the issues that I wanted to talk to are in a PowerPoint presentation, which is quite long. So I don't think I will be able to go through it, but I must indicate that we had very interesting presentations here, and most of them have touched on the issues that I'm supposed to talk to under this topic. Maybe first of all, when we are talking about capacity building, it means that as a continent, we find ourselves lacking in certain area. So when we say advancing AI for climate resilience through capacity building in research, training, and institutional innovation, it means that there are a lot of gaps that still exist, and some of the gaps have already been highlighted, even in the report that was presented by Dr. Humphrey. Those are some of the gaps that we also need to address. But my talk is going to focus on the strategies or the strategic or operational strategies that we need to put in place so that we also build capacity, right, in terms of research, in terms of training, as well as innovation. But I must indicate that Africa, yes, we are lagging behind, but there's a lot that is also happening. The main challenge is that things are happening in silos, like there's too much fragmentation in the way we are approaching artificial intelligence and its application to addressing climate change related issues. But you can see by the number of organizations that are doing a lot of work to advance issues around artificial intelligence, right? The one example is from the previous presenter, Lorna here. Look at the work that they are doing in terms of advancing some of that work. So we have quite a number of organizations, including Deep Learning Indaba. They are doing a lot of work in terms of conducting sessions, training sessions, and also researches, showcasing African innovations in climate smart, agriculture and stuff like that. We also have climate action AI lab at Makerere University, and they have developed some apps, mobile apps for smallholder farmers powered by machine learning for climate resilience, resilient farming. We also have a lot that is happening around AI4D Africa program. They are involved in the monitoring of water availability, land degradation, deforestation. A lot is happening. And we can't also skip ARIN and the University of Nairobi. The efforts that they are making, it shows that at least, yes, we still need to develop the capacity, but there's something that is happening that we can build on as a continent. There's a lot, there's a long list of organizations that are doing something. So where there's a problem now is in terms of coordination of these efforts, so that as Africa, we come up with something which is tangible. So our fragmented efforts are not yielding, very positive results in terms of advancing and our AI applications to climate resilience building, because our small efforts are divided, the resources are divided. In terms of human capital, we are also divided. Imagine if all these efforts are put together, I'm sure Africa can actually come up with something which is tangible. So I'm going to talk about the three areas: research, training, and institutional innovation. So the gaps that I indicated earlier on, especially in terms of research, like the fragmented research ecosystems, right, where scholars, experts are working in silos, the issues around limited funding and infrastructure, and low interdisciplinary integration, right? People are working in silos. So the domains that we are talking about here, when we are talking about AI and climate resilience, already there are two distinct domains, right? We've got climate science standing on its own, then we've got computer science coming in with AI there. But the missing link now is where we now lack capacity in terms of human capital that is capable of managing the two domains. So that is a research gap that we also need to address there. Then Africa is also lagging behind in terms of publication and visibility gap, right? If you look at most of the publications that are around IA applications in climate science, most of them are coming from other continents, and Africa is found wanting in that aspect. So what it means is that in terms of the African context within AI and climate science, that context is actually missing. We are lacking when it comes to that. Then when it comes to training again, we have a shortage of skilled professionals. Yes, we do have people who are working on certain things, but we don't have professionals who are contributing in co-creating, right, co-designing artificial intelligence. Most of the tools we are actually borrowing from other regions, we are borrowing from other continents, but we need to be involved in the co-creation, co-designing of the AI tools so that our impact is also felt. So generally, there is lack of practical exposure. Like I was following what that report was actually indicating, that most people indicate lack of practical exposure. So we need to ensure that there is practical exposure of upcoming generations to AI issues, and also linking them to climate change. Then when it comes to institutional innovations, the policy and the regulatory environment is not favorable, and most institutions cannot innovate because of the regulatory environment. So, and at institutional level, again, we do have weak collaborations. So instead of working together, universities are actually competing for prominence in this area. So what is needed is to address that aspect of weak collaboration and address issues of siloed mandates, right? So we really need to work together on that. The other issue, which is also causing problems is the issue of
Sorry, Dr. Chapungu, just 2 minutes to summarize. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So the issue of techno-hesitancy is a major issue again when it comes to African institutions. We are slow to take up some innovative ideas or technologies because of the societal and ethical issues that were raised by Dr. Ndaka, right? Those are some of the issues that delay the process of adopting certain technologies. Now, I think because of time, I need to end here, but I really had a lot to talk about, especially looking at the AI pyramid and what can we do as Africa to develop our capacity along that AI pyramid from the process of data collection, because for AI to operate efficiently or effectively, we really need a lot of groundwork to be done in terms of data collection, because it uses huge volumes of data, and that data must be of good quality. Going up that chain until we reach a point where we say we now need to make decisions from the data that was collected and used in artificial intelligence to make decisions related to resilience building and other climate-related matters. Thank you, Chair. I really feel good, but yeah, time is a factor. I think we really need more time to deliberate on these issues because they are key to the development of Africa in terms of artificial intelligence and also climate resilience building. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chapungu. And indeed, we do need a more detailed convening on this. But at this juncture, I'd like to invite us to our breakout rooms, which are going to be 3, our breakout rooms. And I'd request 15 more minutes of your time. I request 15 more minutes of your time so that we end at 4:15 East Africa time. So that's just a kind request of 15 minutes of your time. I'd like to invite my colleague Nancy to take us to the breakout rooms where our breakout conveners are waiting for us. We're going to have 3 moderators in the breakout rooms who are going to be leading us through the 3 discussion aspects. Welcome, Nancy. Please take us to the breakout rooms right away. So 10 minutes for the breakout rooms, then we come back to conclude. Over to you, Nancy. So just requesting us to wait as we are allocated. Yep. Thank you. We are now back to our main session, just waiting for the rest to join us. But I'd just like to invite, because there are 3 breakout rooms, so I'd like to give 2 minutes of reflection as part of the plenary from each of the groups. From the first group, we had Annie Rungu taking the notes. So Annie, if you could just take 2 minutes to sort of share what you discussed in the plenary. The second group, we had Jerry, who can take 2 minutes to share what they had in plenary. And the third, we had Edna Kowenje, who can as well take 2 minutes, and then we'll have our closing remarks. So Annie Rungu, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Leah. So our question in group 1 was on how can AI-informed climate needs assessment findings be effectively disseminated and integrated into national and regional climate planning, research, and academic curricula to enhance evidence-based decision-making. So we had a couple of answers, and one of them was involving the educational sectors by sharing these findings to integrate AI in the curriculum, and then translating AI-related climate research into documents and briefs that policymaker can understand, and then establishment of science policy interfaces, which will lead to the development of contextual and tailored policies. And then establishment of digital platforms to integrate and advocate for AI in climate. And then we had mainstreaming findings to advocate for AI in climate sections in the national adaptation plans and nationally determined contributions that can help support and include AI readiness assessments that can help support governments to include AI readiness assessments and infrastructure planning in climate policies. And then we had collaboration with journalists and mass media to share findings using storytelling and to humanize the data and highlight possible implication implications. And then we had holding multi-stakeholder platforms where the findings can be disseminated as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerry.
Okay, thank you, Leah, for the opportunity. On breakout session 2, we were discussing what institutional and individual capacity building strategies are required to support the adoption of AI in climate research, policy, and adaptation planning. We explored this at 3 levels: institutional, individual, and strategic collaborative partnership. On institutional, points came through like sensitize public citizens on different elements of AI. There was also mention of sectoral collaboration, investments in AI structure such as data labs and AI hubs, and need for open access to researchers to exploit issues around reliance. On individual, we had points on offer fellowship, online certificates, and bootcamps focus on AI for climate resilience to individuals, and have the ability to have both capacities. An individual should have the ability to have both capacities at a personal level to exploit the topic of AI, since it may be hard for you to understand it if you don't have the knowledge individually. On collaborative partnerships, points addressed were to localize AI knowledge, e.g. use of indigenous knowledge, introduce AI into the educational school programs right from the lower level. And lastly, we had partner with tech companies for training such as Google and Amazon. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Edna Kowenje.
Thank you, Leah, for that. Our group was discussing what ethical principles and equity considerations should guide the deployment of AI technologies in climate adaptation, ensure inclusivity, fairness, and local relevance. So with redefining the meaning of ethics and equity, because equity focuses on ensuring AI benefits are accessible to all, regardless of background, gender, and through inclusive design. Then when we go to policies, it is also important to ensure what policies are in place. This could be country-specific and even at a global level, such as the NDCs and the Paris Agreement, because this helps us to understand the policy implications that AI has on different sectors. The other thing that we discussed is the aspect of understanding climate justice aspect. This is because there are different levels of perception, there is different levels of adoption, as well as different levels of implementation of AI technologies while addressing climate change issues. So here we think about the level of understanding of communities, still differences in knowledge gaps across different scope of the African continent. Lastly is about the protection of data, where we should always ensure that data privacy and data protection is held paramount while carrying out these AI initiatives, and also boils down to the ethical considerations whereby even in place to protect that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that insightful discussion. And we recognize that time really is not on our side, but I'd just like to invite us to put in our comments in the chat section, and we'll be cognizant of the same. I'd like to invite Dr. Marquette to now wrap up this very useful convening for us. Dr. Marquette, over to you.
Thank you so much, Leah, for taking us through this session and guiding us in the various discussions. So
please
reflecting
put your
on
video on kindly. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So thank you so much, Leah, for guiding the session from the first speaker, Dr. Rotich, on the need or why we need to have policy alignment that speak to integrating AI to policy issues, to capacity needs, on why there is lack of AI in curriculums, especially in Africa, by Dr. Humphrey, and to Dr. Angela's cautious need to, while appreciating the benefits of AI in driving sustainability, we also need to be cognizant on the need to bridge the equity issues. To Professor Joel, who actually took us through on the need to have policy reforms, and linking to Lona's presentation on aligning AI with Africa's futures by having ground-based focus. To Dr. Lazarus, who actually pointed to us on the need to link up human capacity with Africa's visibility. Mine is to appreciate each speaker for the informative presentation and eye-opening discussions, and every person who took part to today's webinar. As Arin, we really appreciate. Thank you so much. Over to you, Leah.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Marquette, and to each and every person for joining us. I'd like to invite Nancy to take a photo. So I'm just encouraging us to put our videos on so that we can have some evidence. As Arin, we're all about evidence. So let's have some evidence of this convening. Just put your video on so that we can take a photo. Nancy, please tell us once you can see our faces and once we're good to go.
We are done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much and have a great weekend ahead.
Thank you.